Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some people seem to shy away from talking about mental health challenges, and why that makes it so tough for those who are struggling to get help? Well, this new study dives right into that question. Imagine trying to get support for something really personal, but feeling like everyone around you has all these wrong ideas about it. That is the tough spot people facing mental illness often find themselves in. This stigma, these negative thoughts and prejudices from the general public can be a huge barrier stopping people from seeking the help they desperately need. It really impacts their lives, making it harder to find jobs or even have a stable home. So researchers are always looking for ways to chip away at this stigma. Two common approaches are psychoeducation, which is basically like getting the facts straight about mental health, and contact interventions, where people actually get to interact with individuals who have lived through mental health challenges. The idea is that education can correct those mistaken beliefs, and contact can build empathy and understanding. Now, the big question is, do these strategies actually work? Some studies show they do. For example, one study found that an educational program about mental illness stories helped reduce social distance compared to a presentation about psychology careers. And a large review of many studies also suggested that both education and contact are indeed effective in reducing public stigma. Interestingly, they found education might be a bit better for younger folks, while contact works well for adults, and face-to-face contact seems to be the most powerful. Another study looking at college students found that both education and contact groups improved their perceptions of mental illness, with very little difference in how effective each method was on its own. But it is not always a slam dunk. Some research has found that these interventions only have a small effect, or sometimes no effect at all, on reducing stigma. It seems like there is still a bit of a debate in the psychology world about just how powerful these anti-stigma tools really are. This is where our study comes in. The researchers wanted to see if combining psychoeducation and contact through a specific program at the University of Melbourne, called the Mind-Brain Behavior 2 or MBB2 program, could make a difference. This program ran for 4 weeks and included lessons about mental health followed by contact activities, like watching videos about real people's experiences, looking at art made by people with lived experience, and participating in an online sharing session. They wanted to know if this combined approach would make university students more willing to interact with people who have mental illnesses. Their hypothesis sounded simple and hopeful. They predicted that the MBB2 course would actually reduce public stigma and discriminatory behavior, meaning students would show less of a social distance once they finished the program. So, how did they find out? They got a huge group of students, 1150 of them, to fill out a specially adapted survey. Think of this survey, called the Social Distance Scale, as a willingness to interact meter. It asks questions to gauge how comfortable people are with interacting with individuals who have experienced mental illness. They had the students fill this out right before the 4-week program started. And then again right after it wrapped up. They used the within-subject design, which is pretty cool because it means the same people were measured twice before and after the intervention, which can give you a clearer picture of change within individuals. And the results, drumroll please. The social distance scale scores were higher before the program began, hovering around 19.83. But after the 4 weeks of education and contact, that score dropped to 16.57. That is a difference of over 3 points. What does this mean? Well, it means the students were more willing to interact with individuals with mental illness after going through the MBB2 program. Their willingness to interact meter moved up, showing they felt less social distance. This is a big win. This finding really lines up with what other researchers have suggested. Combining education with real-life exposure seems to be a powerful recipe for reducing stigma. What is neat about this study is that they used a within-subject design, which is great for seeing individual change, especially with a longer intervention like their 4-week program, unlike some shorter studies. They also didn't try to separate out whether education alone or contact alone was better. By combining them, they showed that the blend itself is effective, which is valuable information, because we often don't have separate effects for complex intervention. However, like any study, this one has its limitations. For instance, they could not strictly monitor how much each student actually engaged with all the program materials. So, some students might have gotten more out of it than others. Also, while the survey showed changes in willingness to interact, it doesn't tell us if these changed attitudes translate into real-life behavior or how long these effects might last. In the end, the researchers are confident that their MBBD2 program, with its blend of psychoeducation and contact, successfully reduced public stigma among these university students. It reinforces the idea that tackling stigma doesn't have to be a single approach. Schools and universities could really benefit from implementing similar programs to foster more understanding and acceptance in the wider community. So, what do I think? This is a really promising study that adds to the growing evidence that education and personal connection are key in fighting mental health stigma. The fact that they used a longer combined intervention and a within-subject design makes their findings quite strong. Of course, we always need more research to see how these changes hold up over time and how they play out in real-world interactions. But this study gives us a clear signal that proactive educational programs can make a tangible difference. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever experienced or witnessed stigma related to mental health? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science simplified, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.